Good afternoon and good evening, depending on where in Australia you are. My name's Dante St. James, and what I'll be doing is taking you through a bit of a journey from the idea that you need some kind of clear brand message to a process that will allow you to do that. And there's a very special offer at the end of this. So what I want you to do very shortly is listen carefully so that I can give you the instructions for how to get started on this. There is a computer follow along thing that you can do with this, so you can sort of throw if you've got two screens, you're going to be great with this. You might want to do the other part on your mobile or on a different part of your screen if you like, or you can just jot it all down on paper and put it into the website later on. That'll make a lot more sense in just a moment as we get it underway. Today's is StoryBrand, the 7 steps to a clear brand message. I'm going to share this screen and we're going to get underway. First of all, a quote from Donald Miller, who is the author of Building a Story Brand, which is the book that I've actually taken most of these concepts from, with a little bit of inspiration from some other people as well. And because I've been doing this particular webinar and this particular workshop for quite some time now, it's had a lot of updates. So you're actually the first people to be seeing this new updated version, which is a lot more simplified and makes a lot more sense, I think, when it comes to explaining and uncovering what that clear brand message is. The book Building a Story Brand from Donald Miller is part of a series of 3 books. The first being Building a Story Brand, and the next one is Marketing Made Simple, and the third one's called Business Made Simple. And it really demystifies the whole problem we have trying to work out, how do we communicate our brand? How do we communicate our passion? How do we communicate in such a way that it actually attracts people to be customers? That's ultimately what we're looking for as customers. But this flips most of marketing's approach and the assumptions that people have about marketing on their heads. You're going to see what I mean very shortly. First of all, this is brought to you by Business Station and the Digital Solutions Program. It's a program of the Australian government, so thanks for them for paying my money. And this will be recorded and put on YouTube a little bit later on as well. So I'll be chopping this up into pieces and putting it on YouTube myself. It's one of my most popular things that there's actually on my YouTube channel. So I've done probably about 6 times I've done this particular one. So it always seems to get a good result. But you can watch it on Business Station's channel as well, as soon as, probably about 2 hours time once this is over. What we're going to look at is the importance of a clear message. Probably doesn't really need to be rehashed of how important a clear message is, but why is it so important? We're going to look at the hero's journey in the context of the customer's journey, because the customer is ultimately the hero of this story. We're going to look at identifying your customer's problems, excuse my spelling error, becoming an effective guide, which is what you are going to be in this story, a clear path forward, a really clear plan to take your customers from consideration through to actually becoming a customer. And then finally, the motivation to act, before we swing around to a little bit of a mind game, I think, on avoiding failure and winning the day. Let's get it underway. First of all, I've got a lot of badges. I collect badges like other people collect stamps or collect Pokemon cards. I've a certified StoryBrand guide through to September this year. I've actually going to renew that because it's become a very big part of my life. I also work with Facebook, or Meta as it's now known in Australia, as a digital marketing associate, creative strategy professional, media planning professional, and certified community manager, amongst some other things as well. A certified professional for LinkedIn marketing and a Canva created certified creative as well. I work with the Entrepreneurship Facilitators program in my hometown of Darwin, and in the Digital Solutions program as a digital advisor, and a bit of a story brand guide in here as well. And I've got some details later on how you can do your own story brand work with me as well. First up though, what I want you to do is probably put this screen down and go to mystorybrand.com. Now, the reason I want you to do this is that this is the place where you'll put all of this in, because what I'm going to do is give you an offer at the end of it, which takes all the things you've put in during this webinar and allows you to send it to me. And then I come back with you with the report of what you need to do and some suggestions on what your story brand message is going to be. And that message is going to help you to get so much more clear on how you communicate what you do, who you are, and what you're doing, who it's for. So who is the person that you're ultimately doing this for, apart from yourself, of course, because, you know, we're business owners, got to be a little bit selfish there. So mystorybrand.com, sign up for there. In the meantime, if you don't get time to sign up or you can't get away from that, just grab a piece of paper and take the notes along the way, and then you can enter them into that mystorybrand.com a little bit later on. And I'll have the instructions on how to send that through to me at the end as well. First up, how important is a clear message? Just why is a clear message such a vital thing when it comes to getting customers in? Just getting over a nasty bronchitis, so I've got sort of that gluggy throat going on. So excuse me if I do drink water quite a lot. First of all, I'll draw your attention to this website. It's for Zoe Facility Services. Now, at first glance, what do you think this business does? Now, I've had answers come back to me before, which have been things like they rent out office space, they provide corporate hiring services for facilities that other businesses can use. They are a real estate company selling commercial real estate. I've had all sorts of answers, but one of the things that never ever came back is that they are commercial cleaners. And that's when they changed their whole approach and went through the StoryBrand process with a StoryBrand guide. They went away from a very vague, like, what is it they do? From looking at that photo, you didn't know, but now he's go, oh, it's commercial cleaning services you can count on with a price match guarantee. That makes so much more sense. If they only had have told us that in the previous website, it would have been easier to know what it is they were doing. This kind of clarity is a basic understanding of who you are as the business, what you do, what you provide, who it's for, so you have a really clear picture of who your customer is, and why they should care about that. Now, none of that existed in the previous version of the website, but now with a new website, that's very clearly communicated. You know who they are. Zoe Facility Services, what they do, commercial cleaning. Who is it for? Anyone who needs commercial cleaning, which is generally office building owners, building rent tenants, businesses in general need that kind of thing. And why should they care? Well, they put an offer in there. They're saying a price match guarantee. So they've got an offer in there that helps to make them sort of stand out. You think, well, you know, they seem to be a much more professional outfit than the guys I'm using right now. And they've said they'll match the price. So that sounds like a pretty good deal to me. I get a better service, a much more clear, at least I know what I'm getting this time. And I'm also getting it at the price that's going to match what I'm getting it for now. Now, price matching isn't for everybody. Lowest price guarantee might work for Bunnings, but it may not work for a small business like yours. So what you need to do is extract what is important for you, who you are, what you do, who you're serving, and why your customers should care. The elements of a clear and easy to follow StoryBrand compliant website kind of look a little bit like this. Now, I'm not going to go through all this with you right now. There's an actual separate webinar that I do run, which is all about how to create a StoryBrand compliant website and the things you need to lay out and how you should lay them out and the kind of content that needs to be on there, particularly on that homepage, to ensure that people do actually know what you're doing, that answers those 4 questions we're asking. You know, who are you? What do you do? Who is it for? And why should I care? And this is what these particular layouts of website do. You may have seen other websites like this before. My own business websites follow this procedure. There's others which I know another digital agency nearby to me that actually runs this as well. And what I've found with the websites that run this is that it's abundantly clear what they're about. You know what you're getting. There's no guesswork. No one has to work hard to understand what you're all about and what you're doing. So that we won't go too much into. How do we get there? How do we get to that point where we are ready to lay out a website in the right way, to lay out our social media in the right way, to communicate with people through email and different kinds of media to get them to understand what it is you're doing, what you're about, and why they should care about that? Well, it all starts with this process of understanding the customer journey. And the customer journey is a very clear mirror of what the hero's journey is. And what's a hero's journey? It's like watching Star Wars. You've got Luke Skywalker, kid in the backwater planet, who someday, you know, finds that the Empire has come and they've destroyed his farm and his family, and he now has to, you know, he has to rely on a new guide called Ben Kenobi, who's going to teach him the ways of the Force and to become a Jedi warrior. He gives him a mission. He gives him a plan, which is to go and save the princess from the Death Star. And to call him into action, he's got, well, we've got to go and find a ship. And here's Han Solo, who just so happens to have a ship who can take us there. And the whole idea is so he won't fail, because failure would be death and him never ever actually uncovering that he is some sort of galactic hero, but wanting to succeed, which is blowing up the Death Star, saving the princess, and hopefully saving the galaxy from the evil empire. Now, that sounds all great. How do we make that as part of a business? It's by following this. A customer has a problem. They meet the guide who gives them a plan and calls them to action so they won't fail, but will succeed. Now, this structure takes a very complex, theory of, how do we get customers, and just puts it into steps. These steps will then allow us to be able to write out a procedure and a way of writing on our websites, on our social media, that helps to attract people where they're at, because everybody is a customer who has a problem to solve. Now, they might be just looking for a product. They might be just looking to buy something. They may be just trying to solve something small in their lives. And I'll have some examples during this webinar to show you what those things can be. But we might even use some examples from what you're going to look at, what you're going to have. So let's look at that customer journey and break it down a bit. When we look at a customer part, we're looking at understanding who exactly your customer is. Who's your customer? What do they look like? What do they do? What are they interested in? What gender are they? Where are they located? Any of those questions you can answer help you to uncover who your customer is. Now, some of you may have seen that described as a client avatar or a customer persona. That's a different way of just describing exactly the same thing. It's understanding a profile of who your customer is. That's kind of a step one, really. Step two then is where they go into the has a problem bit. And the has a problem bit is knowing what the underlying problem is that your customer is trying to solve. So it's one thing knowing who they are. It's another thing to understand what their problem is that they're trying to solve, potentially with you as the guide and as the business that's going to serve that for them. So when we know what the underlying problem may be, then we move on to the meeting of the guide. That's you. You're the guide. You're Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're Hagrid or Dumbledore from Harry Potter, or you're one of the many different guides you've seen in so many different movies where there's a coming of age or overcoming an obstacle. They never do it on their own. They always do it with some kind of guide that's beside them. So a guide has to have empathy, and a guide has to have credibility for them to choose you. Because otherwise, if they don't connect with you and they don't know you, like you, or they're not going to trust you. So the trust comes from a little bit of credibility on your part, knowing that you be able to trust that you know what you're doing and you're going to be able to deliver what you promise. But the empathy is where it starts. It's where somebody actually forms a connection and a rapport with you. Doesn't have to be with you personally. You don't have to shake hands and kiss babies to get that kind of rapport. Sometimes it just starts with writing something on your website or on your social media that someone can relate to. It's like, oh, finally someone's writing in a voice that connects with me, that I can understand them. I feel confident with them. I feel great that I can connect with them. And then you're able to then move across to the point of credibility. And we'll show you a bit more of that shortly. Next up is the guide gives them a plan. And this is a clear path for somebody to work with you. I've got a fantastic real life example from my own life that I'll be able to share with you shortly that'll allow you to understand how this works and where it can go horribly wrong if you don't define what that plan is. Next up is a call to action. We always think of a call to action being a button on the website, and it can be that, but it can be so much more than just that. It's basically a clear path onto the next step that you want people to take. That step might be to make a purchase. It may be to book something, to download an ebook, whatever that happens to be. It needs to be very clear and very easy to see what next step you want your customer to take. Once they've got to your website, or once they've got to your Facebook page, or once they've got to your TikTok, what's the next thing you want them to do? And that's not often explained, particularly by small businesses, because, well, how will we know? Who's telling us how to do these things? Then we look at the avoiding of failure. We don't want our customers to fail in their journey, their heroic, epic journey across the galaxy. No, we want to give them some clear consequences of what happens when they don't work with you. If they don't choose to work with you, there's going to be consequences. You're not going to blow up their planet like in Star Wars. You're not going to send the Dementors to Hogwarts to haunt their dreams. Nothing like that. It's all about understanding there are advantages to working with you, and there's certainly disadvantages for not working with you. And those we'll find out very shortly as well, which then leads us to the success part. We want our customers to succeed. We want to show them that they're going to win the day and how it's going to feel when they do. It's going to feel amazing when they're able to do that. And we want to make sure that they understand just how amazing it's going to feel and how good that's going to be for them. So those are the 7 steps when it comes to it. What we're going to do is now work on those 7 steps. Now, at the end of each section we're going to do here this afternoon or this evening is to write down your feedback from that. So it will move kind of quickly. I'm going to hopefully give you enough time to be able to write down what you need to do. But the key is that at the end of each section, I've got a little bit of time that you'll be able to do that, about a minute where you'll be able to write down what those basics are. Now, you don't have to think about it all in one go now. You can go back and change it before you submit it to me to be able to do your report. But the idea is that you read along with me in here, and then at the end, we can work together on what those examples might be for you. So first up, who is your customer? And what do they want at the end of the day? To know our customer is to understand whether they are men, women, non-binary, whether they're non-specific about their gender, any of those things. They could be gay, straight, bisexual, transgendered, anything at all. Your customer doesn't have to conform to any one particular thing. Depending on your niche, depending on your product, depending on your service, you already have an idea of who it is you want to work with. Even if you haven't really set up your business yet, you've got an idea in the back of your mind where you want to work with women who are coming out of the workforce and going into starting their businesses, or you want to work with people who are collecting, high-end Aboriginal art, or you want to work with people who are wanting to change their lives. Whatever your particular client or customer happens to be, that's who that person is. That's part of that customer persona, that idea of who your ideal customer is. They may be in a certain age, or there might be an age range. It might be 25 to 35, 55 to 65. There could be any age you like. Then there's a location, there's probably a language, and probably an ethnicity in there as well. So the location could be in Western Brisbane, or it could be in Eastern Perth, or it could be in Adelaide or Darwin, or the whole of Australia. It could be somebody who could live anywhere on this great big blue planet of ours. Doesn't really matter what they happen to be. This is part of you identifying and defining who your customer is. The language is important because when it comes to this, like we're presenting this in English, but this can apply to any language at all. The thought process and pattern is still the same, no matter which particular background you come from and what language you have. It still translates very well across different language groups and different ethnicities as well, because it's all based upon storytelling, the oldest form of connection between the past and the present that we have. And it's continuing to be such a massive part of our lives. And then we think about, what are their interests? If you're a woman of 35 to 55 years old who lives in Dubbo in Western New South Wales, speaks English and has an ethnicity of being mixed race of various different backgrounds, what then is her interest? What is she interested in? Is she interested in netball? Is she interested in AFL football? Probably not from Dubbo, probably more like rugby league. Is she interested in cattle farming? Does she have an interest in transformational psychology? Or is she someone who, from a particular religious background, she wants to work in that or have some support from that? Understanding who that customer is step one on the journey to knowing how to produce your clear message. So once you know who it is, we can start to think about what we're going to say to them. So once we know who we might be looking for, what they're looking for. What do they want from you that's in your business? What do you do? If you are someone who works in the legal field, well, then perhaps it could be that they are looking for legal advice that they can get before they go and spend a lot of money suing someone. Or it could be, it could be someone who's looking for a big range of quality clothes for plus size women, or a hair color that makes me feel unique and beautiful. I like the hair to begin with, that'll be a good start. Or the tools I need to succeed in my life. Any of these could be something that your customer's looking for. So I want you to have a think about it. What it is your customer looking for. Who are they? Are they women? Are they men? What's their age range? Where are they located at? Don't say everybody. Not everyone's your customer. There's no such thing as everybody, because everybody, there's 7.5 billion people on this planet. You can't target them all because they're all very, very different, with very different ethnicities, locations, genders, backgrounds, and hopes and fears for the future. It might also be something like, for instance, they might want a home that they're going to love and keep loving for many years to come, or a qualification that will lead them to the job they want, or that bucket list adventure that they're going to remember for the rest of their lives. What is that thing that people will come to you for? And this is really important for you to understand, because this helps us know what to write to them. If we know who they are and we know what it is they want, we go, I know what my message needs to be now. And that makes it so much more simple than if you're not really sure what you're doing, you don't really know who you're doing it for. It can be really hard to get that message across. Now, I assume you know who you are and what your business does, but do you know how to explain what your business does to the ideal client that you want to attract? So in the first part of this site, if you manage to get onto the website to get this, or you can just write this down on paper and then put it on the mystorybrand.com website later on, you can put in, what does your customer want? And I would say, who is your customer first? Write down, who is your customer? Even think of it, if it's a name of a person you know in real life, like maybe it's Jenny from Malak in Darwin, and you know her, as you know her, just write down Jenny from Malak as you know who she is. Sometimes the target customers I have are people who I know in real life. They might be a friend. I go, people just like him or people just like her are the kind of person I might be targeting. So think about them, write down their name or what what you think they're about, and then also what you think they want. What do they want from you? What is it that you do that they want? Now, I'm not looking for solving problems yet. We're just looking at what it is they want and what it is you do that they want. It could be, you could be selling dresses, you could be giving advice, you could be coaching people, you could be training people, you could be doing painting parties with people. What do they want? Just jot that down. Give you about another 20 to 30 seconds to get that right before we move on. And if you're having trouble with that, just jot down that you're having trouble, and this is something you can submit with your report a little bit later on. All right, let's start to move on. Secondly, what is their problem? Now, this is different to what they want. What people want is often not what's going to help them be better, not what's going to make them feel better about what their problem is. Now, we don't tend to think about our customers as having problems. We just go, well, we've got a solution for them, but we don't really know what their problem is. So we don't know whether it's a solution at all, but hey, buy my stuff. That's where a lot of advertising, particularly in small businesses, we notice that when you go to country areas and watch television, the cringy ads that come on, they're all all trying to sell hard. They're all using, really bad cliches like just around the corner or been around for 32 years or 100% Aussie owned and or the best in the business. They use a lot of cliches and it just sounds really cringy and weird because they haven't gone to any effort to understand how they solve the problem that someone has, because they don't exactly know what the problem is. They just know they've been doing this for 30 years and they haven't gone broke yet, but they don't really quite understand what their customers are and what they want. Just the customers they've had before, they know them very well. Problem is, customers can move away, they can die, they can get out of the kind of business that buys stuff from you. So what is their problem? Now, problems are split up into three different areas. We call them the villain and external problems, and then internal problems. Let's explain what I mean by this. The villain is all about the root cause of their problem. So the root cause of the problem for the current problem with, I don't know if you've noticed, if you're not in the Northern Territory, we've got problems with our supermarket shelves right now. There's not a lot of food on them. We've got a massive logistics problem of getting food into the Northern Territory. I could probably use a diet for a couple of months to catch up, but it's going to a more deep root cause of what happened. The root cause of the problem with the trucks not being able to get to deliver things in the Northern Territory is a massive flood has happened in South Australia, which has cut off the one way that you can get into the Northern Territory, which is either, it's up the same way really. It's up the guts of the country via rail or via the Stuart Highway. Now, if you cut off the Stuart Highway or the rail, there's no other way to get in the Northern Territory without taking a 7,500 kilometre journey through from Adelaide through to New South Wales, through Queensland, across the Barkly Highway, and then into the Northern Territory. That journey takes a week It's going to take so long. It's a 7,500 kilometer journey. It's massive. And these are trucks that now are having to pay 3 to 4 times more in fuel in wages to be able to get that stuff from there. Now you say, oh, why don't they just send it from the distribution centers on the East Coast and that'll solve the problem? Unfortunately, those distribution centers are already at capacity, sending things to places on the East Coast. They don't have extra capacity. Capacity for the Northern Territory comes out of South Australia. The root cause of the problem, the villain here, is the fact that we only have one way in from the south where most of our stuff comes from. That's the villain. Now that causes what is called external problems like empty shelves, unable to get things, unable to buy rapid antigen tests, unable to get even bags. They're out of bags in the supermarkets. So you have to take your own bags because they've run out. They can't even sell you a bag. They just don't have them there. So you start to see all those external problems. The root problem is that there's this problem with transport coming into the Northern Territory. A flood's cut it off and destroyed the road and upended the railway line. So we can't get anything in through that way. So trucks are having to go a long way around. That means that things are coming late. Things are coming stale. The fruit and veggies aren't particularly great at the moment. You wouldn't want to trust them too much. Frozen things are taking forever to get here. Drivers are being fatigued for having to drive extra distances. They're not seeing their families. All of that is external problems. The internal problems then is how your customer feels about all that. So you're walking into Woolies and you go, oh, I feel kind of hopeless. Like, where do I go to get this food? Can I go to the local markets? They don't really sell, like no one grows apples up here, so I can't buy apples. I'm going to have to buy, what do we grow up here? Mangoes? Not really mango season yet. What else have we got? Dragon fruit? Not really. And then you suddenly have people panicking and they start clearing the shelves, like the toilet paper thing that's going on around Australia right now. What is that? That's the internal problems because people feel scared. Your customer feels afraid or unempowered, or they feel like they are incapable of doing something that makes them feel small. They feel like people are laughing at them. And then that internal problem is what they make their decision on. We as businesses tend to put all our marketing around these. We market against the things we can see, the problems we can see that are very obvious. Oh, well, you know what? I'm going to market that I've got pasta. I've got pasta by the bucket load that I can sell to you, even though you can't seem to get any of that Woolies or Coles at the moment. But I've got pasta. So let's advertise that I've got pasta. The problem is that people are not making decisions based upon the external problems. They're making them about the internal problems, how I feel about the fact there's no pasta. I know it sounds ridiculous, but emotions guide most of our buying. We think that we're so in control and we think that we are so logical about our purchasing habits. We're just making emotional decisions all the time. The last time you bought something which was new, it's like, oh, the packaging changed. That looks nice. Or, oh, that's a new flavor. I might try that. Is all an emotional decision you've made. You don't have an external problem that needs to solve that new flavor issue. You just have an emotional thing which is telling you, I'd like to try a new flavor with my chocolate this week. Thank you very much. Or ice cream in my case. So understanding what those is, you can start to paint out what the villain is in someone's life. Let's just say you are someone who helps people find jobs. You're faced with Emily here. Now, Emily is the victim of the villain. The villain says that there is an assumption that people with tattoos and piercings are not suitable for professional environments. That's the villain, not Emily. The villain is an expectation outside of her, which causes an external problem, which is that Emily is now struggling to get an office job. She can't get a job anywhere in an office. She only seems to be able to get work in a tattoo parlor. The internal problem is that Emily feels like she's being judged solely and wholly on appearance instead of on her merits. So you can understand where the villain is, what the external problem is, what the internal problem is. So if I walk up to someone and say, hey, Emily, I'll get you an office job. She's just like, she's coming to you with a whole bunch of baggage. Like she's being judged all the time. You go, I'll get you an office job. And then you notice the piercings and the tattoos go, oh, actually, maybe I can't. And it makes Emily feel worse. Another example would be DIY renovations. My parents at the moment are trying to get new flooring laid, some floating flooring laid in their house. And my father's understood and my mother's understood that, when they're 80 years old and 76 years old, that this is a hard thing to do. But hiring people to do the work is very expensive. And I live 2,500 kilometers away, so I can't really help them with it unless I go down and visit. The external problem is that Andre, who's in this photo, he's struggling to get the work done on his own, but he's not sure that he can afford to get outside help. The internal problem is that he feels like a failure and he thinks he won't have the job finished in time for Christmas when the family visits. That's pretty much exactly what went on with my parents with the floating flooring. So the villain is never actually the problem that's happening. It's the fact that there's an overriding thing that people are expensive when it comes to getting things done. You ever, like, I hire people all the time, and oh my goodness, people are so expensive. And I think about, well, so am I. I'm expensive too. So when we can figure out what these things are, so back to your worksheet again, I want you to work out who the villain is of what you do, who the external problem is. I want you to skip the philosophicals. We don't really need to go there. We just need to look at what the villain is, what the external problem is, and what the internal problem is. But what I want you to start with is how the customer feels. How does your customer feel when they're coming to you? You start with the one that makes sense to you. So an example could be, if you don't mind typing into the chat window now, what it is your business does, and I'll sort of throw a few examples that may actually work for you, for what your villain may be, what your external problems may be for you to overcome for your customers, and what those internal feelings are going to be for your customers as well. Because I think this comes to life mainly when you can see it. So a bookkeeper and virtual assistant, great example, Gail. So the villain is that no business owner has enough time. Time is at an absolute, we just don't have enough time. Villain is time. The external problem is that I am busy and I can't get my books done. And when I do it, I don't understand it. And it's all just a mess. And I feel like I'm falling behind and I've got to get a BAS in. And oh my God, what do I do? I hired a bookkeeper to handle all my stuff for me because of this very reason. I do not have the time. It's just annoying. I can't do it. So the external problems are all that. The internal problem is that I feel hopeless and helpless because I cannot get all this done. I feel like my time management's out. But the reality is, it's the villain. There's not much time available for a business owner. They need to do so many things. So that could be your one. For Carlun, which is the providing coaching for pregnancy and corporate women for first-time mums to be. The villain there is that we don't live as a village anymore. So that knowledge that's passed down from generation to generation, from grandmother to mother, from mother to mother, that sort of stuff isn't there anymore. We're having to look online for things or look to external people. The villain is that people are disconnected. The external problem is that a woman can go into first-time pregnancy and not really know what she's stepping into. She could go to a doctor and speak to an obstetrician, and they'll give her, a lot of the facts, but nobody's giving that necessary, coaching through the process. What about the pain? How do I manage the pain? What are the options of water birth? Is there, traditional birth? What about a C-section? What do we actually do? What do I do as a woman who has never been pregnant before and is doing this for the first time? Internally, she'll be feeling a little bit afraid, a little bit scared, very apprehensive. She may not have a lot of people, particularly if she's been a corporate woman. She may not have a lot of friends who she can turn to who've had a lot of babies. Her friends all might be corporate women just like her who have not yet had a child. So she's having to look to external sources to get that information. You're probably hearing some things here which are very tied to the decision you made to get into what you got into. That's because you have a heart for solving the problem that these particular people have before them. For a virtual CFO and a growth specialist, could be the same thing. I'm a busy small business owner. I don't have time. My villain is time. The external problems are that I'm stuck. I can't seem to get this business to grow anywhere near as fast as I'd like it to. And it's a side gig, and I want it to be able to get big enough so I can actually become full-time in my own business, and then maybe even hire some people and grow the business to a point where I can maybe use it as an investment to sell one day. But I can't do any of that if I can't grow it. So the internal feeling is frustration. I'm frustrated. I don't know what to do. I don't have the knowledge. And I listen to all these gurus on Facebook and these gurus over on LinkedIn telling me, oh, just do this, just do that. And it just makes no sense to me because I'm just not getting it. I don't understand what it is. I need someone to coach me through the process. Hopefully that gives you a little bit of an idea for those three businesses we looked at of what we're looking for here. So try and get that down. I know I was talking really fast and throwing out those ideas really quickly. I work with a lot of people. I've actually worked with another pregnancy coach and a lot of bookkeepers and a lot of accountants. So it's those things came a little bit easy for me. But please do jot them down and they'll be part of your notes. Moving on to number 3, they meet a guide. This is where they meet you. They're meeting you for the first time and you're going to help them save the day. But in order for them to understand, to work with you and want to work with you, first of all, you need to get a grasp on 2 things: empathy and credibility.
Let's start with empathy, because this one can be the hardest one to understand, because not all of us feel particularly empathetic. And what is empathy anyway? It's that whole thing of going, I can feel like I can step into someone's shoes and feel the way they feel without actually having to go through it. We often think that, the best kind of people who could make a cricket coach, people who play cricket at a high level, or the best kind of people who could, the best gynecologist would be a woman because, well, for obvious reasons, you think that would be the case, right? So if that empathy is stepping into someone's shoes, it's a connection that is made between you and your customer before you've even met them, because you get them, you understand them. You might have got into your particular realm of work because you had that problem yourself and you had to overcome that problem yourself. That's the ultimate empathy. The empathy of, I've gone down this path with you. Your empathy could be, oh, don't worry, sis, I've done this before too. And I started with a lot of fear, but look, now I've been able to break through that. Empathy could be, oh yes, my sister just went through that as well. And we can see it really, really hard for her. It's that understanding of what someone's going through rather than trying to immediately solve their problem. It's hearing them out and using things like active listening, where someone's talking to you and you're nodding your head in agreement that you're understanding, you're repeating back to them what they're saying. So you go, yep, I understand what that is. That empathetic connection is what keeps us together as humans. And it can be hard when it's not someone you love. Empathy comes naturally when you've got a little bit of what we call oxytocin, a little chemical that flows through our bloodstream we call it the love drug in our bodies. It allows us to feel connected to people, allows us to feel like we care about them, we have empathy for them. It flows when you give someone a hug. It flows when you fall in love. It flows during sex. It flows when you're kissing someone, or you look across the road and see somebody who you love to bits. That's when oxytocin happens. So what this is allowing you to take control of that process yourself and be able to get the oxytocin flowing in your body by understanding where someone comes from. I'd see it on a video all the time. You might watch dog rescue videos. I'm kind of renowned for watching those. I watched a stupid video just before we got on this, and was bawling my eyes out and had to go wash my face before this webinar, because I was watching a famous football player go in and acknowledge a heavily physically disabled girl who was in a stadium, and the footballers were being cheered on coming in for a final, and he acknowledged her. He didn't just acknowledge her, he signed her jersey and then gave her a big hug. And of course, that made her absolute day, week, month, year life. It was an amazing thing. It made me cry. And I suddenly felt empathy for a disabled person in a way that I've not felt for a while. And that was a beautiful moment. It actually reminded me, wow, this is something that I should be feeling more often, that empathy for people rather than just ignoring people. Empathy then for you can come in the form of promoting your business in a way that actually shows someone that you get what they want. So in this case, it'd be a hotel lobby where it's a nice, beautiful, beautiful, gorgeous hotel lobby with very, very shiny floors. I don't know how they manage that. It looks like it's oily and you'd slip over. But those shiny floors and that shiny lobby and those shiny desks don't feature anybody. So while they might have won a 2019 winner of the Service Excellence Award, I can't see any service going on there. All I can see is a great big lobby with a skylight. It's not really giving me any idea about what I can expect in there, because when it comes down to it, when I'm spending my money at this resort, there's a luxury and there's a rest that I'm looking for. And if we can then, instead of saying that we're winners of a service award for luxury and making that the first thing that people encounter from us, why can't we just let them encounter a picture of people just like them, just like me, who are resting and relaxing in a hotel bed, and it's all about them finding the luxury and rest they've been looking for their little 4-week vacation, or in America, it could be 2 weeks. I can't believe they only get 2 weeks annual leave. But that a little bit of time, you get away from it all and you actually want some luxury and rest, that you're going to get that, not an empty reception desk with shining floors that mean absolutely nothing to you, because the reality is you probably only see that twice as you walk into the hotel and then when you walk out when you're leaving. So that empathy means that you may, in the case of being a lawnmower, if you're a lawn mowing service, your empathy wouldn't be saying, I'm 100% locally owned and operated for 25 years, because what's in that for me as the customer? I don't care. What I care about is having a lawnmower make the neighbor's dog jealous, or probably more correctly, make the neighbor jealous. So they'll see that I have a gorgeous lawn, a gorgeous green lawn, that's all that. But, it makes it cute with the neighbor's dog, because who doesn't like a cute little Jack Russell running across the lawn, holding onto a stick or a toy and showing how much joy they're having in their life? That brings out the empathy in people. You understand what people are really after. They're not after 100% locally owned and operated for 25 years because they couldn't give a crap about that. What they want is a lawn that will make their neighbors jealous or their neighbor's dog jealous. It could also be in the form of maybe a coach who's saying, live a powerful life and a powerful and empowered life of significance. Empowerment is the most overused word in coaching I've ever seen. It doesn't actually connect with people because they don't really, it's a vague word. It's not really I can apply that to my own life word. I'm not walking around to people saying, geez, I wish I was a bit more empowered. I'm just walking around really saying, my relationship's crap. My business is going down the gurgler. My kids hate me. That's the kind of things we're walking around saying, not, I wish I was more empowered. No, what we want is better relationships, better businesses, a better life in every way. Much more empathetic. It goes straight to the heart of the problem of what that person's having who needs that coaching. So you get empathy, you understand what it is. It could be even, this is a great idea I heard the other night from someone who was starting a business, Australia's leading gift registry and delivery service. That's great. That's nice. Didn't even know there was such a thing. It means nothing to me. A photo of a van rushing to deliver something means nothing to me. But a little girl pulling out a gift from a box that she's been sent with a bit of joy, knowing that her dad, who's currently traveling internationally with business and can't be there, but he actually arranged to have a gift sent to her that she would love. That's the kind of thing. And you'll never forget to send the perfect gifts because we'll always be there to remind you. And that's the kind of business that these people I'm working with are trying to build. I won't tell you the full business model of that because that's up to them, but it's just showing that you have some empathy for who the end receiver will be. Your customer is somebody who's a real person with real problems to solve. And if you just think that boasting about your business is the way to get hold of them, it doesn't work. Maybe in the 1950s that worked because people believed that stuff. These days, no one believes the boasting. No one believes you're the best in town. No one believes that 9 out of 10 dentists recommend Oral-B. It's rubbish. That's why they don't advertise that way anymore, because it doesn't work. No one believes it because it was never true in the first place. Some key things to when it comes to writing this little piece about what your empathy piece is to avoid being clever. Playing with words, that sort of stuff doesn't work. It doesn't, saying things like, it's our birthday, but you get the presents. It's so cliched and clear, and it just makes people cringe when they hear it. They've heard it 1,000 times over the last 50 years on radio. Keep it short, keep it to the point. 1 line, 2 line, out. It doesn't have to be a War and Peace novel. The shorter it is, the more impacting it is, and the more you're able to clearly explain what it is you do, who it's for, and why they should care. Boring and clear with these kind of messages is infinitely better than being clever and confusing. So you may want to be clever. You may think that play on words is really clever and no one's ever done that before. I guarantee you they probably have. There's a reason why the biggest games in town, the biggest companies in town don't use those clever plays on words, because they don't really mean anything. They don't connect directly to the person. McDonald's is, I'm loving it. That seems vague, but you think about it. I'm loving it. It's me. I'm loving it. Loving it means, that I feel connected. Love is what everybody wants. Connecting the word love with a burger, hey, they're doing pretty well with doing that. Or if you look at, Nike, just do it. It's like, oh yeah, I feel motivated. I just want to do it. Now the subtext there is just buy the Nike clothes. Just do it, just buy it. But for them, it's been successful because it gets to the heart of what their particular customer is trying to do, which is to just do it, just have that breakthrough in their athletic life or in their fitness life, or just do it, just lose weight, just get up there and do it. It makes people feel connected to that brand. Credibility is the next step, though. Now, this isn't boasting. A lot of people think this is boasting about all the things we have and all the badges we have and all the memberships we have and all the years of service we've been able to do. It comes down to the customer saying, well, I like you because you've shown me some empathy and you've connected with me, but can I trust you? Are you credible? Are you authoritative in what you do? And this is where we start to look at, say, a mechanic, if they're connected with the RACQ, the RAC, or the AANT, we then go, well, yeah, I feel like I can trust them more because they've got that connection with these major organizations who'd kick them out if something went wrong. And it makes me feel like I've got some comeback with them if something does go wrong. If you're a marketer, a digital marketer, a website developer, maybe having a Meta certification through Facebook or a Google partnership, or having a membership with the Australian Marketing Institute, or being a certified practicing marketer, all of those things may be quite significant in your life. And then perhaps in fitness, if you're working in as a personal trainer, or being a member of AusActive, which is like the same kind of thing as all these others, but for personal trainers and fitness industry, might be where you need to go. That might be a great thing for people to see. They feel confident seeing that. I know for my Meta, and my Google partnerships and all that sort of thing for my clients is a very big sense of relief they get when they see that, because they go, oh yeah, okay, I get that. I feel like a lot safer working with him because he must know what he's doing. So it doesn't mean badges necessarily are telling people that you know what you're doing, but you wouldn't go to a lawyer if they didn't have that certificate on the wall. You wouldn't go to a doctor unless they actually were a qualified doctor. Although some people go to YouTube and listen to idiots on there to give them health advice, but that's because they see some credibility in that person who connects to them. Usually because that person made you feel like that they understand you and they have the same concerns as you do with health. And that's how conspiracy theories spread, because usually very charismatic people can sort of work with that. They work with that empathy, and they connect with you, and they go, oh, okay, yeah, that's a disenfranchised person over there. I can get them to buy my vitamins if I could get them to like me. And then next thing, they have credibility. I take these vitamins. Look how healthy I am. Like Joe Rogan, for instance. Those kinds of things really allow you to connect with people. They can be misused as well. Hopefully you won't be the one that does that. Testimonials and case studies, though, speak just as loud as any of that stuff. So if you've got people who say nice things about you, use them. Don't fake them, though. I've seen so many websites and Google profiles that got clearly fake things on them with people with names that don't really belong in a certain country that they're in. Say, for instance, if you're a mechanic in Dubbo in New South Wales, there's not going to be a lot of people who are Egyptian who are going to be using your service. But funnily enough, all the names are Egyptian names when you go to look at their testimonials and case studies. Case studies are a bit different. They are things where you describe how you would handle a certain situation, and they show that you've really thought about that and you've got at least the nous and the knowledge to be able to carry that out. So what I want you to do now for the meeting a guide bit is put down what is something you could say to a customer that would make them feel like you understand them without you saying, I understand you. It might be that if it's a pregnancy thing, that you've also gone through pregnancy before, so you can naturally empathize with them because you're a mum too. Or it could be that you understand what they're going through as having all this mess because you've worked with 100 other people who are small business owners who have this same problem. They just don't know how to keep their books in order, or they don't know how to grow their business. And then you're able to connect them with that and say, look, you're not alone. There's like literally most of the businesses out there, they have struggles with this as well. So you're on the right track. You've done the right thing. And then I want you to put down, what's your authority? What's your credibility? What are the things like your membership? So you might be Australian Bookkeepers. You could be part of a particular club that's that has to do with your industry, or an association with your industry. You might have won awards. They can be a good piece of credibility too. Or it could just be that you're concentrating more on what the testimonials are of people who love what you do and have worked with you, and you want to use those as well. Collecting things like recommendations from Facebook, reviews from Google, or recommendations being made about you on LinkedIn, a really great way for you to share those with others to show that you do have that credibility and that authority. All right, let's keep moving because we're really chewing up the time here. Number 4, who gives them a plan? You, the guide, are going to give them a clear plan to work from. I'm going to give you a bit of a personal story about catering. So how does catering work anyway? It's a question I asked myself about 5 years ago when I catered my first event that I was speaking at. And I was like, what do I do? Where do I go? How does someone cater? So like all introverted people who don't really like going in to talk about, who don't really like to talk to people on the phone, I went on the internet and I was looking at how do I do catering? Who does catering? Well, there's all these cafes say they do catering. They don't really say about how they do it. There's no menu here for me. What do I do? I don't really know what I'm doing. I asked someone, they said, just call them up. I was like, no, I don't have time to get on 100 phone calls. I need to just quickly shoot through some websites and find out what it is. So here it is, here, and here. Okay. All right. So the one place I got to, which actually gave me a clear plan of action on how to do catering, was Subway. Not the best catering in the world by any stretch of the imagination, but boy, they make it easy for you because I don't have to talk to anybody. For someone who just does not have the time to be talking to people to do these things, I don't want to talk to someone about the ins and outs of my catering. I just want to order it online, pick it up, serve it out, and everyone's happy. Great. I want to be able to do that. So, how does catering work? Well, step one, I go to the Subway website. Step two, I pick what I want to actually have for people. So I go, okay, this, and it tells you this one feeds 20, this one feeds 12. Great. I can feed 150 people by ordering this many of these platters, making sure, oh, look, there's a gluten-free option there. There's a vegetarian option there. Fantastic. I'll be able to do all that and get it across nice and it's easy. And finally, they say, when do you want to pick it up? I'm like, oh yeah, I'll pick it up at 8:30 in the morning. So it should be right for lunch. Great, done. What an amazingly simple way to do it. Now, all those local businesses that may not have cost any more missed out on my business because they had not bothered to share with anyone about how to do catering. They just assume that all mugs like me know what they're doing when it comes to catering. All mugs like me don't know what to do with catering, and I don't have the time to call them. And then I call them and I get some rude person answering the phone. I don't have time to talk to you about catering. I'm in the middle of the lunch rush. And that's what I would have got. So I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to go with the easiest possible option. I did, and they got my business. So how do you know to sort this out? The easiest way to do it is to lay out a plan of action, how it works. So in their case, select the number of guests, number one. Number two, choose from our set menu range. Number three, choose the date and time of your event. Number four, we'll deliver to you and pick up the dishes. Now, this could be just as simple as, how do I work with a pregnancy coach? Number one, book a 15-minute free consultation with me to discuss what you're after and how I might be able to assist. Number two, I'll send you through a range of options for how to work with me, and you'll be able to choose those. Number three, choose the option you want, and then we'll start booking in your first date. Number four, your first date with me comes, and we have a great time learning about the magical journey that is pregnancy. So that's how you would lay that out. You lay out your process so it's dead easy for someone to understand what it means to work with you, how to work with you, what the process is, what they need to know, what they need to bring, what all the things are that they need to understand before they book with you. And this kind of process, the step one, step two, step three, step four, it's usually about 3 or 4 steps. If you can condense it down is ideal. If you've got those steps down pat and defined and condensed, people will feel so much more confident that you know what you're doing and that they feel safe. They feel like they're going to have the thing work for them. So then once you've got that easy plan of action ready for them, now you get to reassure your customer that you'll be there if things go wrong. And that's where the RACQ, RACV, AANT, RAC kind of badges start to come into play. We start to look at things like, we'll fix it free within 30 days, or return it and we'll send a new one, or cancellations more than 24 hours before will be refunded, or 7 days a week support line if you need our help. So you have not just a clear path of how people work with you, so they understand what's involved. You then also have a clear message about what you'll do if things go wrong. It doesn't have to be giving people money back or refunding or discount, anything like that. Sometimes it's just simply that, hey, we've got an email address that you can email anytime, or get back to you within 24 hours. Sometimes that is enough. You don't have to be awake 24 hours a day or hire a Philippine call center to be able to do all that for you. It's just quite simply letting people know if something goes wrong, they can reach out. I've got a question I know from Carlin who's asking, what do you put for authority if you're just starting out? So you'll have certain qualifications in there. You will have something that you've studied through. Add that kind of thing. You can also put so statements that people make about your character could be a good way of doing that as well. But back to our steps. What I want you to do in your workbook or in the online version or on your sheet of paper is outline what are the steps for people to work with you. For a lot of you who are working in services, and I think most of you here have a service attached, it's always just going to be about getting that first call. You need to talk to someone in that case. So you make it really easy for them to talk to you. And having something like Calendly or one of those booking systems, or Just Book Me, or HubSpot, which has a booking service in it as well, having those makes it really, really easy for people to book that initial talk with you, because it's booked at a time. They don't feel like they're taking up your time. They don't feel like they're interrupting your day. and boom, you've got that connection with them. So you can have a talk to them. And when you talk to them, you know that the chance of you converting them into a customer is going to be much greater because they can hear your passion. They feel your empathy. They know that you understand what they're going through. Number 5, now we're going to call them to action. Now we're rushing through this because we're running out of time. So number 5, call to action. Left to themselves, customers will not buy from you unless you ask them to buy from you. It's like a monkey see, monkey do thing. Why would they buy from you if they don't know what to do? It's like, for instance, why someone, when you walk into a clothing shop, says, hey, you're just browsing, or can I help you out there? Is there anything particular you're looking for? And you go, oh, I'm just browsing, thanks. So you go, actually, no, I'm looking for something in a size 32, preferably in pink. Have you got anything in stock like that? And someone can then know that once they get into there and having that interaction with you, you're most likely to sell something to them, which is why everybody is asked, can I help you, or would you prefer to browse? So they can immediately have that point where they can help a customer out and potentially get that sale at a much greater chance. A call to action could be a buy now button on a website. It could be a book now button on a website to book a car, to book a hotel, to book a flight, to book a 15-minute free consultation, whatever it happens to be. But if you don't have these things laid out and spelled out, and it can feel a bit icky sometimes where you're thinking, oh, I feel a bit too salesy having 3 buy now buttons or book now buttons on my page. Trust me, online, you need to keep repeating the message because people will miss it the first time, they'll see it the second. If they get it the first time and click on it, great. They notice it the first time, then they notice it the second time. Very few people are going to be annoyed and feel like they're being oversold to, when really they're at your website or on your social media to solve a problem. They're either being entertained by your content or they're looking for a way to solve the problem they're having. So your calls to action then lay between 2 different types: the direct call to action, like the book now, buy now, and the transitional call to action. This is where I want you to start thinking about what you would do now. Direct call to action, obvious, and all these. You've seen all these before on websites. Subscribe now, join now, order now, buy now, add to cart, book now. They're really easy ones. We know what they're going to be for your website or your social media, but the transitional call to action is a little bit different. What if they're not ready to spend $3,000 on your particular course? What if they're not ready to book in a 6-week, build your business seminar with you? You might get them to download an ebook that explains your process in a bit more detail. You might get them to join your Facebook group where they can be around other people in the same boat as them and allows you to further build that relationship with them. Maybe you've got a video you need them to watch. So you link across that video and they can watch that to get a better feel for who you are. Or join your newsletter just by signing up for your newsletter to get something free. The idea here is that they are able to get a little taste of you so they get that little bit closer to knowing you. And that's where you can express that empathy in there and make it just a better experience for them. So that's your 2 calls to action. Then on your sheets, write down what you think you're trying. I'll just skip the direct because I'm pretty sure we all know it's going to be either book now or buy now for most people. But that transitional call to action, have a think about the kind of things you can do to help that along, whether it's something like an ebook or a newsletter or watching a video. Just jot those down in that section and put that down for yourself. Now, 6 is where you help them to avoid failure. I say avoiding failure before success because there are consequences of someone not working with you. So we need to know what those consequences are. And we do that through a thing that's called the wheel of threat. Now, the wheel of threat looks like this. There is something you can do that you are vulnerable to a threat. Luckily, there's something you can do about it. Here's what you can do about it. Now, go and do something about it. Now, this wheel of threat is probably better pictured when you look at this. If you look at termites, termites can cause tens of thousands of dollars of damage to your home. You can prevent this from happening to your home and family. A 1-hour inspection will let you know if you're affected and what needs to be done. Book your $89 inspection now at termitesareus.com. So that takes you through you are vulnerable to a threat. The termites can cause damage. There is something you can do about it. You can prevent it from happening. Here's what you can do about it. It's a 1-hour inspection. Now go and do something about it. Book your $89 inspection now at Termites R Us. Now that may be a little bit hard and a little bit scary. Let's soften that up a bit and go for a holiday to Ayers Rock, Uluru. Imagine never getting to see the magic of Uluru at sunset. Jetstar now flies from Brisbane to Uluru twice a week. From just $89 each way, you could be there as the sun sets and the rock comes to life. Book now at jetstar.com. Exactly the same process, but it takes people through that fear of loss, into how they can offset that fear of loss. That fear of missing out could be great. A couple just went to Uluru before Christmas. I was supposed to go last year, but the COVID situation got a bit out of control. I had to go through Melbourne right when they were in the middle of their worst part of the pandemic. So I actually missed out on it. So what are the consequences in this section? What do people miss out on if they don't work with you? Don't put your fluffy things like my bubbly personality and my special way of dealing with people. Be realistic, be very real about it. What are the consequences of people not working with you? That you'll be more fearful going into pregnancy, that your books will remain a mess, that your business will never grow. Those are the kind of things that are the consequences of something not working with you. So jot those down in there. Thankfully, hopefully you've at least written these down, or if you've got that website open, you're able to do that with. I'm really looking forward to getting these in. Our final step is, and brings them success. This is basically all about, what does success look like for your customer? It could be that it's about them feeling better. It's about people noticing a change in them, that they're able to finish the job. They're able to get a job. They've got confidence. They can tell others about it. They get attention, that they lost weight. What are the positive consequences of somebody working with you? What will they get out of this at the end of the day that they can boast about, that they can get some status about, that helps them to survive and thrive through life? What are the positive outcomes of that? Now, think about that as you put it down. What is success? What is the ultimate success of somebody working with you? And now, not your success, their success. We're talking about your customer, not about you. So the ultimate success for me, having someone buy a website design through me, is that they have a place where they now can proudly send their customers to, or they've got a place now where they can actually finally sell those products that they've been making for the last few years. For you, it could be they'll feel safe and knowing that they've got a partner who will help them through the pregnancy process right through to birth, or that they, in the termites case, the house is not going to fall down around them and kill them and their family. That's a bit morbid, I'm sorry. So what's next? Now you got all those things down. I know we rushed through those last few ones, so you've got time that you can spend on that yourself. Next is that I want you to go into the mystorybrand.com page, and up the top there's a little share icon. I want you to click on that share icon, and then it's going to give you some options. The option I want you to choose is the third one, which says send a copy to a user, and I put in my email address, which is info@clickstarter.com.au. Now, if you haven't been able to do that and you're just jotting it all down on paper or on a Word document or something, feel free to send me that as well to the same email address. I don't mind. That's just as easy for me to work with. What you're going to get in about 2 weeks' time is something that looks like this. Is an assessment of your website and social media mockup. So it gives you an idea of what your brand script is, what your core key messages are going to be. I'm going to do a mockup of what a website would look like in your business using StoryBrand concepts. And there's going to be a little bit of social media mockups in there as well. It'll give you all those key messages that have to be included in things like websites and social media. So make sure you do that. Send that copy to info@clickstarter.com.au. If all this seems like a bit too much, and there's a lot to go through in 1 hour, you can always work with me individually. So you can work with me individually through the Digital Solutions program. If you've still got some hours left on that, it really only needs 1 hour. So it will be by going to businessstation.com.au and book in yourself, register yourself if you haven't done it already. And you get 3 hours of 1 hour, three 1 hour advisory sessions, and all the access you want to all these workshops and webinars you can possibly do. I'd love to work with this. I'm unfortunately the only StoryBrand guide on the program, so I tend to get quite busy with that. So please do take advantage of that while the program's still around. If not, feel free to at least send me what you've been able to jot down during this session, and I can help you out with producing that brand script and that StoryBrand assessment in that way as well. I really like to thank you for taking this hour out of your business to and delaying your dinners probably in the eastern states and the center for at least taking some time to grow your business. You want to reach out to me either info@clickstarter.com.au or Dante@businessstation.com.au as well. And please follow me on LinkedIn. I'm very, very active on LinkedIn. You can probably reach me there easier than any other way. I think my mother would be better off if she wanted to connect with me on LinkedIn. She'd probably get me more often than she would on the phone. So please do connect. Thank you so much for taking some time out. And I really, really appreciate you spending that time with me as well. Hopefully I hear from a few of you and we'll get those StoryBrand assessments going. Again, thank you and have a fantastic evening. Good night.